Hey everybody, this is Perch. Jason Pearson passed away actually in December. Kind of, what? There's a bunch of things that trouble me and bug me. One of the things that bugs me is that it was December. It's January now, and I understand on one level, people keeping things private and families keeping things private. And Jason Pearson had a lot of issues. He had a lot of problems, a lot of troubles. Definitely struggled for a long time. This wasn't, it's not like in the last year. It's not like COVID and the issues surrounding that caused the problems. It had been going on for a long time. A lot of people knew this. Everybody in the industry knew this. It's one of those. There's a handful of people. Blank has a drinking problem. Blank has a gambling problem. Blank deals with depression. And on it goes. And it's very well known within comics, and then every now and then it bubbles out. And I always wish, in my mind, that it was not well known in comics. I think that if Person X has a gambling problem, and several of you right now who are listening to this, just filling in the name in your heads. I don't think the solution is that, people ask me from time to time, like, hey, Perch, you should just say who these people are. No, actually, the opposite. I would like for these people to be afforded some privacy. I wish they had the privacy in their professional life. Giving them even less seems like the wrong answer. But at any rate, it bothers me that it's time. What feels like a lot of time, yeah, a couple of weeks, but still, it feels like a lot of time passed before we're able to, in some ways, say goodbye and offer our condolences. I did like Jason Pearson a lot. I liked his art. He was one of the influences for me when I was kind of attempting to draw back in the day. I liked his style, but I was always drawn to people whose style was a little bit more kind of unique. Chris Bacalo, Michael Mignola, people who had kind of a more unique, Walt Simonson certainly. I liked, not liked, I like their art. Even though Jason Pearson has passed, I still like his art. Um, but we've had a lot. I mean, it feels like quite a lot in the last 12 months if you think about it. It's been a rough go of it in comics. We've lost a lot of creators, and it feels like kind of the thing I hated or was dreading coming has come, which is we're getting kind of like, oh, here's another one. It's still tragic. It just feels kind of expected at this point that we're losing a lot of those legends, and it's tough. It's very tough. I'm sorry to see him go. Um, there's some stuff circulating. So Jason Pearson got in a number of fights over the years. And it was kind of the classic case. You can label a lot of different things. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if he suffered from depression, if he was bipolar, if he had what. No, nobody knows what was going on. But he certainly, just following him, he was rash. I'm not going to play armchair psychiatrist, but there's a number of creators who fit into this category. Who if anyone who kind of seems cheerful one day lashes out the next, posts things erratically. I'm describing myself. No, I know. I'm just kidding. Well, mostly, but you can kind of see a thread, and unfortunately, as I mentioned, there's a lot of people in comics who fit into this category. One of the toughest places for people to get to is when you get two people who both are suffering from those things, and then you put them in collision with each other, and that happens a lot. But anyway, the stuff is circulating now of some arguments. So Jason Pearson had let's say, troubled a relationship with a number of other comic professionals. As nice way as you could put it. He seemed to be irritated by several of them, and they certainly seemed irritated by him. And that irritation takes different forms. And this is where I just put it. Let me give you an example here. So Jason Pearson was making a comment about basically a woman in comics who didn't have a kind of long career, and basically to the effect of you don't belong in comics or you shouldn't be in comics, which is a dick thing to say. It is. Several people, I mean, several of you fans and readers and other creators say that kind of stuff all the time. This person doesn't belong. Fake Geek Girl doesn't. All the rest. There's always somebody who says they don't belong, and I bring that up not to hand wave it away, not to say yeah. So what's the big deal? I also don't bring it up to want to roast this guy. I bring it up because people make a lot of off the cuff kind of comments all the time. Some of those off the cuff comments hurt. I'm sure if you're this woman who he was making the comments about, I'm sure that didn't feel good, and I'm sure it bothered you, and I'm sure it was not something you wanted to read. Regardless of whatever happened in your life, nobody wants to see that kind of negativity thrown at them. They don't. Um, so that was not a cool thing to say, no doubt about it. And in many cases, you could easily see where he was coming from. I think Jason Pearson, a lot of his work had dried up. A lot of editors were not hiring him. I know at least one of the two big companies had put him on more or less a no hire list because, or at least, you're going to have to get special permission. A lot of editors just don't, put up with that stuff. They just will not bother in the first place. That's clearly where he's coming from. Frustration. Somebody who had done a lot of comics in the past and now is getting kind of crapped on, and he also, at least what I know of him and what I've seen with my own eyes, he was not the kind of guy to go then, join a group. So, for example, if the mainstream comic industry is going to kick you out, he's not somebody who's going to pack his bags and then head on over and kind of join on the crowdfunding side and take shots at the mainstream industry. That works for some. It was never going to work for him. He was just not that personality type. He was too, as he said, he self-admitted that he dealt with depression and other things. It was just not going to be the route for him. The response that he got was thorough condemnation. And here's where, again, people, it's fine to say, hey, I don't like that. Hey, I don't agree. Hey, I'm going to respond to this dick statement. It was kind of a dick statement of my own. But there was a dog pile that kind of went off on him. People just kept going and going and going and going, and months would go by. And then generally somebody who, doesn't have much of a comic experience or history, would write something like, hey, remember that time that Jason Pearson was a gatekeeping misogynist prick? And it would all start up again. People just out of nowhere say this kind of stuff. And then suddenly you've got another little outrage. And this happens all the time. I'm amazed and disappointed that so often on Twitter, you see creators or editors or people who are in comics, not the fans, but people who are actually in comics, who in theory, should be at least trying to maintain some level of professionalism. I mean, everyone should. This is one of the big fallacies, by the way, and one of the things that frustrates me about kind of this whole comic discussion is that it's like, well, the creator should be professional. Well, technically, all of us should. Everybody should at least try not to be an asshole when you wake up. But yes, I do take the point that if you work in that industry, it's nice if you don't just deposit shit everywhere. But anyway, so these people kind of went on and on and on about him. And then they would take like a 2-month pause. And then, again, out of nowhere, somebody just brings it up. And you see this, like you go onto Facebook or Twitter and you see people at times going, hey, remember blank creator who apparently I just was driving in the morning and thought of today. Hey, you know what? Fuck that guy. Let's be angry at him again. There was this period of time where like 3 or 4 weeks went by and there was no activity. Pearson wasn't saying anything. It was quiet. And then again, out of nowhere, somebody wakes up and goes, just remembering the fact that, this guy is a pig and an asshole. Like, what is the point of that? The point of that is to stir up drama, get some free likes, and to just shit on somebody for no apparent reason. And that is, the people who do that do tend to be insecure, perhaps depressed. These are often people who are dealing with mental issues because, put it this way, somebody who's confident, secure, doing okay in life doesn't randomly just wake up one day and decide to roast somebody for no apparent reason. That's not what normal people in their right minds do. Even people who are terrible. Look, there's people who are terrible all the time. There's some people in prison in my state who have done horrible, horrible crimes. If I was to wake up one morning and just start kind of going, fuck those guys in that prison, like that would be strange. You would look at me, you would wonder what the hell was going on in my life to make those kinds of comments. But this is what I mean of a troubled person. Troubled person exists, in this case, Jason Pearson. And then other troubled people come around and just decide to crap on them and to stir up trouble. And what's very very aggravating. I'm aggravating myself just thinking about it. What's very aggravating in all this is when you point that out and you're like, hey, this guy is dealing with some stuff, depressed. Yeah, shouldn't have said what he said. I mean, that wasn't a cool thing to do, but all the same, continuing harping on this, 30 of you all brigading the guy to do this kind of stuff, that's not good either. It's not proportional to the argument. It's not fair. It's not helpful. You're not defending anyone. You think you're doing this under the guise of, well, I'm defending this woman who was attacked. It's like, yeah, but that was one person saying this person doesn't belong in the industry. Now they've got 30 people, advocating that, you should be run out of comics forever. I hate you. Again, not quite the same. One man's, again, dumb opinion should not equal, big waves of bullshit, then little pause, little break, and then more waves of bullshit. This is going to go on forever. I am disappointed to see that on Twitter I posted out like, hey, sorry to hear about this guy's passing. Sorry that this happened. Sure enough, one person has to come in like, well, he was a misogynistic piece of shit. Like, what? Why? What does that solve? What does that do? The reality of it is that the person who posts that is equally troubled or perhaps more troubled. But the person who's posting something like that is also somebody who is very quick to go, what's the big deal? I don't see what the big deal is. I don't understand. Why are you angry? And I waffled. It's kind of like the video I posted several weeks ago. I go back and forth. Is the person lying or is the person a sociopath? It's kind of one or the other. I do believe that there are some people who were doing this to Jason Pearson. I do believe, and kind of really going at him and really kind of making some of these statements about how he should be run out of comics and you don't deserve to work here. And, it's not just like, hey, I don't agree with you. I'm disappointed to see you say that. Hey, I think she has just as much a right as you do. Any of those kinds of comments would be fine. But no, get out forever, you miserable asshole. That kind of stuff. Like I see your punch and I'm going to respond with a bazooka. If you were to go talk to some of those people and go, well, hey, do you regret saying some of those things? Do you think that might have led to further depression and further isolation of this individual? People would truthfully tell you, well, no, what does that have to do with it? I don't understand. How did my actions cause any of this? No, he was troubled. He was troubled. My actions don't cause any of this. Because we live in this point where it's somehow okay to just crap on people, to relentlessly mock them, and then wash your hands of any consequences of that. It's like, well, I mean, I wasn't the one who made him depressed. I just called him a piece of shit. I don't know. What's the big deal? Others, they know exactly what they're doing, for sure. Hopefully there's a little bit of guilt or remorse. Hopefully there's at least some soul searching to go, hey, maybe I could have handled this situation differently. Maybe I could have, when I saw him post something like that, go, hey, you know what? Well, there's lots of jobs for everyone. She does have a job. And, you're one of the people I looked up to when I was younger. I would hope that you would have better things to say about the next generation. I mean, again, lots of different ways you could handle it. Going for insults. The worst way. And I guess what's stuck in my head, what's bothering me in all this, it is very, there's a lot of people who relentlessly clown and shit on people all the time. And then come out, basically come across as little angels Like I don't understand why what I said was harmful in any given way. I was just giving my opinion. I don't know. There is not a willingness to accept people's actions, just to accept your own kind of part to play. And everybody makes mistakes, and everybody gets heated, and everybody makes comments from time to time. But on some level, if you relentlessly attack, regardless of whether you think you were justified in it or not, relentlessly kind of attacking somebody, even if that person did a wrong thing, that's not hero behavior. These are comics. In theory, people are writing, creating, drawing, producing, publishing, editing stories about heroes. Now, when Superman goes and he fights Lex Luthor, you don't see Superman. Lex Luthor's done horrible things, plot to destroy the entire, all the heroes, kill Superman with kryptonite, get the Earth involved in war, blow up buildings, all kinds of stuff that Lex Luthor gets up to. That is horrible, evil shit. Can you point to me the comic where like Superman is as a reporter in his secret identity is like writing articles like Lex Luthor has a tiny penis? The dumbass. Superman doesn't do that because that would make Superman a prick. Superman doesn't go in there and go, after when the reporters are saying, so how was it defeating this big arch enemy of yours? It was in a giant purple green robot suit trying to blow up the city. What was going through your head? Superman wasn't going, well, what was going through my head is how pathetically ugly and stupid Lex Luthor is, how he's such a man baby, always fucking around, and it made me think that he probably hasn't actually been with a woman because he's such a pathetic loser. Can you imagine that interview with Superman? Like Superman wouldn't do that. Superman doesn't just randomly decide to fly around the skies, just shouting out like, "Hey, the toy man's a pussy." These are, I guess the point I'm making is these are comics about heroes. So, act like it. Thanks for listening.